Hey guys, welcome back. Now, this is likely one of the most important videos I will have made this year. Why? Because there's not just one, but two huge catalysts coming our way, converging together, that are about to change the game. It's no secret everybody's getting really bored with the last 6 months of sideways consolidation. However, it looks like this is all about to change. And so in this video, I've got not one, not two, but three really important things to cover. Firstly, why it's all about the 7th month where the breakthrough finally comes. Don't worry, I will explain all. Then why November 5th is probably the most important day in this entire 4-year cycle. It really is the make or break moment. And then we'll finish with why ultimately all the roads will probably lead to Valhalla, as the world's largest money manager, Blackrock, just dropped a major bombshell. Okay, so first up, the big thing to cover is why the crypto market is finally going to break free, and it's all about the number 7. Okay, so let's start with a super important insight, and this is my Bitcoin chart seen in a log scale, and this is pretty much how I just view the crypto market now. I've stopped looking at the daily chart where things are just going up and down. In fact, if we just flip over to the day, you'll see what I mean. When we look at the daily chart, it's literally just runs and crashes, runs and crashes, runs and crashes, runs and crashes. And it's a little bit like being on top of the ocean where there is just storms constantly. And for me, it's very misleading, which is why this is now how I look at the crypto market. A nice long-term log scale, and all the ups and downs, these are literally by each month, all the ups and downs just disappear. Now, so the super important thing to share in this video is why it's all about lucky number 7. So what do I mean by lucky number 7? Well, it's based on the halvings, these halvings here. And if we zoom in to this 4-year cycle period, we can see this was the previous all-time high. We had the big crypto winter, the final capitulation. Then the crypto market recovers. We hit the halving, which is a very important milestone. But the question is, when did we finally break the previous all-time high? Well, if this was the halving month, count it with me. And these are the months. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's the 7th month where crypto finally broke above, taking us on to the final part, the banana zone. So lucky number 7. Now, if we look at the last cycle, again, this is where it ultimately peaked out. The very same pattern, we have this crypto crash, crypto winter, the final capitulation, a big recovery. This also had a mid-cycle top. It faded down. This is the halving. And then what do we see? How many months after the halving? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's the 7th month, which ultimately breaks through the previous all-time high. So now when we come to what's happened most recently, this was the high, if you remember, in the last cycle. It's the same pattern, the crypto crash, the crypto winter, the ultimate capitulation, the recovery. This time we had something very strange happened because of these pesky Bitcoin ETFs. We got this artificial pump back to the previous all-time high, but as we know from the previous cycles, this isn't what normally happens. And so what do we get? 6 months of it having to come back down. So now, if we count our 7 months, we have the halving month, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the 7th month would be November. So it is November, which is the chosen month where crypto would likely break through. So now the question is there anything out of the ordinary happening in November? Well, only probably the most important event in this entire crypto 4-year cycle. The US election, where Donald Trump going against Kamala Harris. And this is happening on the 5th of November. So for me, it's all about the 5th of November. That is when the stars are aligning. And it really wouldn't surprise me to see something like this. If we get a Trump win, I could see the altcoin market jumping 50% in just 1 month. And on the flip side, if Harris does actually get in, I could see altcoins doing a 20% crash. So the difference is enormous considering this would just be 1 month. Now, this is quite a bold statement to say a 50% jump versus a 20% crash. So what makes me think this way? Well, let's take a look if Harris were to get in and we continue with our favorite SEC chairman, Gary Gensler. What do we get? Well, we get a continuation of Operation Choke Point, doing everything they can to slow crypto adoption down, and also any bank or financial institution, they're choking them off to stop them getting any traction. More of the same. We get a continuation of all the lawsuits, and this one is a huge one, which we'll talk about in a second. We get the fact that Bitcoin is now over 10 years old, and there are still no clear rules for the crypto market, and this has been done on purpose. With Harris, we get socialism versus capitalism. Don't believe me? Well, one of her policies she has said is that she wants a tax on unrealized gains. So this means all your crypto profits, which are just sat there, even if you don't sell, they'll be taking some of your crypto and any other investment that you have, taking it from people who have money and giving it to people who don't. Don't even get me started on these policies. Now, let's talk about all the lawsuits. Gary Gensler is literally chaining down the entire market. We've had lawsuits on Binance, Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, Robinhood, Bittrex, Consensus, Ripple, Uniswap, OpenSea, and in fact, there's 67 different lawsuits. Can you believe it? Now, the image that this brings to mind, which I tried to find but I couldn't find it, it is a boat with an anchor coming out the bottom, but not just one anchor to stop the boat. There is another anchor and another anchor and another anchor and another anchor and another anchor. And it reminds me, Gary Gensler is literally chaining down the entire industry. And this is why we get 4 more years of this terrible system. Then, on the flip side, we have a scenario with Donald Pump. And he's openly said he wants the US to be the crypto capital of the world. On day 1, he's going to fire Gary Gensler. Can you imagine what's going to happen to the market if that happens? It's very likely that all the lawsuits would be dropped. Can you imagine the day if they announce all lawsuits dropped? He'll be building a Bitcoin strategic reserve. He'll be launching his own DeFi protocol. The president will literally have his own token, which is crazy. And he has openly said crypto will skyrocket like never before. So all of these pesky lawsuits, all of a sudden, Binance lawsuit gone, Coinbase gone, Kraken gone, Gemini gone, Robinhood gone, Bittrex gone, Consensus gone, Ripple gone, Uniswap gone, OpenSea gone. And it's for these reasons this is why it really wouldn't surprise me that the 5th of November is what it's all about. Now, the final point in this video, and the third really important thing that I'd like to finally cover, is that yes, even though we did get Harris in and there was a 20% initial drop, I do think ultimately crypto still does well next year. Not as well obviously in this scenario, but I think it will still do well, and this is why. Now, Blackrock, if you didn't know, is the most successful, largest money manager in the world. And they just gave a presentation which highlighted a really, really important thing about the crypto market and why ultimately it's going to be successful either way. And if you missed it, here is the quick clip of Blackrock showing why crypto's success will be inevitable.
Head of thematic investing at Blackrock, I really spend a lot of my time thinking about the future and some of the disruptive changes that are impacting the world and society and the economy and our portfolios around us. Oftentimes, this is about disruptive technologies. Oftentimes, it's about societal changes. But what we found with blockchain and digital assets is that in some ways, this is one of the fastest growing technologies we've seen in the last few years. On the right-hand side of the chart, you can see our adoption curve. This is just looking at how quickly certain assets are adopted by society. And you can see that blockchain and digital assets are being adopted faster than major revolutions before it, whether that's the internet or whether that's cell phones. And there's a couple of reasons for this. The first reason is just we're living in a more digital economy than ever before. If we're consuming things online, streaming videos, playing video games, buying digital content, it makes sense to have digitally native assets to conduct those transactions. Secondly, and importantly, in a year like this year, where over half the world's population is voting for new leadership, not just the elections in the United States, in Mexico, in India, and the European Union, we're seeing more geopolitical risk than before, and in fact, declining trust in institutions, whether that's trust in government institutions for maintaining peace and order, whether that's trust in central banks in terms of keeping inflation under control. More distrust has exacerbated the need for a global monetary alternative. The third we're seeing is demographic changes, the rise of the millennial and Gen Z generation. Millennials, at least in the United States, are set to inherit trillions of dollars, are entering peak earnings years in their work, and are increasingly playing an important role in the economy. And millennials are very different from previous generations because we, were the first generation to be digitally native, growing up with the internet, growing up with computers. We understand digital better than previous generations. And that means we're more likely to adopt digital currencies. And then finally, what I think has been really important to BlackRock in our journey in the digital asset space has been the maturing of infrastructure in digital assets. We've seen billions of dollars move in venture capital and private equity into digital assets to fund incredible innovation in blockchain. We've seen the regulatory environment evolve to get more constructive around digital assets and how people can buy them. We've seen extremely talented people leave traditional finance to go into DeFi to help lead some of these innovations. And all of this infrastructure has really matured over the last 5 years. So between all of these tailwinds, it's really creating the opportunity for digital assets to gain broader adoption across more investors around the world. We have focused thus far our efforts on 2 digital assets, the 2 largest. We feel that between these 2 assets, which represent about 75% of the market cap of the digital asset space and have some of the most liquidity in the digital asset space, that we can really start to make headway in terms of bringing out accessible vehicles to more investors.
After 6 long months of sideways consolidation, it looks like the big breakout is finally imminent. As you saw historically, it is the 7th month where the breakout finally comes blasting past the previous all-time high. And this means it is November, which is the chosen one. And is anything important happening in November? Well, only the most important day of this entire 4-year cycle, the US election. And the result, I think, could not be more different for all the reasons mentioned. It really wouldn't surprise me to see the difference between a 50% boom and a 20% crash. However, as we saw, ultimately, I think the crypto market will do very well, as we saw Blackrock saying that not only is crypto growing faster than the internet, but it's also growing faster than mobile phones. So not even Gary Gensler will be able to stop this runaway train. So there you are, guys. Hope you enjoyed. So for me, it's all about November 5th. And nothing else matters. Literally nothing else matters right now. So if you are in the US, get out and vote, and let's make this a landslide victory and send crypto back to its rightful place, to the moon. Now, if you do have any questions or comments, then leave them below. However, just remember to get rid of 100% of the comment spam and trading bots that plague YouTube comments. We are trying out the new SuperThanks Commenting system. So to get your question or comment read and replied to, or just to say thanks, then use SuperThanks below. And for now, just to say, if you did enjoy anything in the video, then drop a like, and a big thank you to everyone who does, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.